Can you get into music school if you are a self-taught composer? So that's what we're going to be exploring today. If you're new here, I'm Dr. Norris. I am a composer, producer. I've been the composer for TV series for Netflix and Apple, and I'm the founder of Southside Symphony. I've been commissioned by Juilliard and the Atlanta Opera and a bunch of other people. Relevant to this video, I have my PhD from UCLA. I have my master's in composition from FIU in Miami, Florida International University. I have my bachelor's in music composition from Columbia College Chicago, and an associate's degree in music recording technology from Schoolcraft College outside of Detroit. Okay, so first let's clarify the question here. The question that we're exploring is, can you get into music school? The question is not, can you compose music? Those are two separate things. Like music school in and of itself has like its own game mechanics and all of these things, right? Because I could see people saying like, oh, but so-and-so didn't go to music school and they're very successful. That's true. You know, that's people like Hans Zimmer. Hans Zimmer has talked about in a lot of his interviews that, you know, he can barely read music. And I'll talk about that later in this video. But just recognize, like, what is the question we're exploring in this video? If you're on the fence about whether or not you should go to music school, or how did I make that decision to go to music school, I have videos. I will link both of those in the comments and, you know, somewhere on this video. But today is about, like, can a self-taught composer go to music school? Cool. So let's first talk about undergrad. And frankly, I'm going to say this is where it's the most possible. And the reason why is because, like, the difference in levels between the applicants, like, is smaller. The training that you have has compounded or not compounding over those like extra 4 years when you're applying to like graduate school. The difference between people with a little bit of training or like no training is maybe not as wide yet in the undergraduate. I'm not saying it's easy, but it's the most possible. So let's talk about it. So the people who have been like studying composition with somebody will have like a stronger foundation. So if you do not have a strong foundation and you're going to apply for music school, I think at this point you have to like really work hard and try to make up for some of those deficits that you're at. And then I'll talk about that. Because the good thing is that there are resources. If you're going to be trying to get some type of performance degree, it's like you have to have some type of, you know, skill level or like budding virtuosity. But composition, on the other hand, is like, it doesn't require you to be a virtuoso at an instrument. I, to this day, am not a virtuoso as an instrument. I just listed all my degrees. You really just have to find a school that will accept you. And we should say, like, for the elite schools, it's like, they're probably not going to accept you if you don't have some long lineage of learning music or being taught music. That's just the game. Their floor of applicants is so high. The prestige at those places is so high that, you know, these are the people that they're choosing from. Like when I was at UCLA, I would meet like some of my fellow PhD students were teaching 10-year-olds like in private lessons. And that kind of blew my mind. 'Cause I'm like, those kids are 10 and they're already getting taught by a PhD student in this composing thing from like, you know, the number one school in the country at the time. So I'm saying it's like some people's lives are like that. And so that is the context for these elite schools. This is not me saying don't apply to these schools. I'm just saying, like, be realistic about your chances and give yourself the best chance of success, right? Like, I'm not trying to discourage you. I'm trying to encourage you to do things that benefit you strategically. One of the challenges is that, like, it's hard to get the experience or portfolio that you need to apply, or even have spent the time on the subject to get good enough to get accepted. In this book, Outliers, Malcolm Gladwell talks about, like, mastery comes from the opportunities to practice more. And an uncomfortable truth is that you just might not be very good yet because you haven't had those opportunities to practice that somebody who's been getting lessons in one-on-one teaching can. You know what I'm saying? So what are some tips that I can give you to make your application as strong as possible? One, I'm going to say develop your ears and do ear training. This is stuff like oral skills. You might hear it called listening to melodies and get good at transcribing them, listening to chord progression, transcribing them. You might be able to find resources online. I can't point to one specifically. I'm actually thinking about making one with musicality.me. Let me know if that'd be helpful in the comments. Musicality.me is my teaching platform. As always, if you like the way I teach, this is something that I feel like might be useful for a lot of people, is like some type of just go-to ear training thing, like what you know, a really useful tool for that. Let me know if you're interested. Second tip, you should develop like an intimate knowledge of music. Like, a lot of music, as much as you can. Most often this comes from like playing your instrument and getting like intimately familiar with your repertoire. Practice a lot on your instrument, on a instrument. If you don't have one, I would pick piano. What's good about piano is it helps you understand chords and harmony in a way that monophonic instruments don't. You get to like just see it kind of all laid out. For these reasons, like if you're a self-taught composer but a trained musician, you have a better chance of getting in, because like a lot of people just start writing for their instruments. There are like a sizable amount of people, think about like Chopin and piano. Chopin mainly just writes piano music, and he played piano music, and he wrote very, very good piano music. My third tip I would say is write an incredible amount of music. You should write so much music. That should be all you're doing. Like the Malcolm Gladwell book, it's like this feedback loop that happens when you make something, you put it out in the world, it gets exposed to criticism and praise and how you feel even internally, like for different parts. We look at it differently when it's in front of people. You experience it differently. And this feedback loop helps you to get better and better and better. Some of the best advice I ever got was like, however much music you're writing, write 3 times as much. My life changed when that happened. So I would really advise that. Lastly, I'll say like, one of the best ways to be like the best self-taught composer is don't be self-taught, man. Take lessons, like if you can afford it. I know that's a luxury. I know not everyone can, but like there are people online, myself, find somebody you like. I did this, and people like, this is how I started doing online lessons, is because people would like just hit me up, and I'm like, yeah, why not? Zoom kind of changed, made it convenient, right? The why is because like a master understands things that you don't. Like what can be kind of hard, as I'm sure you know if you're watching this video, what can be kind of hard for composers is you don't know what you don't know. And you see this a lot. Like, of course you love your music, but a master might be able to like, oh, but have you thought about this? Or have you been exposed to this idea or this way of thinking about it? And I like identify gaps in your knowledge. And I also liked the masters that I was under and that I would see when I was younger is that like, a lot of which weren't even in through school, is that like they kind of humble you in a way that's helpful during your development. Like you see their work next to your work and you're like, man, that my work's not there yet, but why? Like, what are the elements of their work that make it so much better than mine? And in that thought process, in that diagnosing, it's like you become better. And that's a big thing about like lessons. And lessons aren't like, going to school is going to be 6 figures or whatever the money is. You might be scholarships or whatever, but school is expensive. Compared to that, like taking lessons with somebody is going to be not that much. And you don't have to do them weekly or something. Like you can do every couple months, start a piece, get some feedback on it, whatever it is. I saw a Reddit comment when I was researching like other people's opinions to be informed for this video. And they said like they sometimes feel school programs and teachers are largely just people that give you permission to do projects and study. I would disagree with this. While the only way to learn is by doing, working with a master has like those benefits that I just discussed with you. You're talking to somebody who has already walked the path that you're hoping to walk. You know what I mean? They understand the industry landscape in a way that you don't yet as someone just entering. I alluded to it at the beginning of the video, but many of the old school like film composer masters, old school is relative, right? We're not talking Henry Mancini, but like the Hans Zimmer, like famously aren't like able to read music. But I would caution you that you can definitely like enter the arena, enter the business, but like you kind of have to study with the masters for years in order to become one. And for most people in this field, it's done through school. There are a few lucky people who are like lottery winners, but like it maybe isn't what it looks like. If you think about like Hans Zimmer, it's a very open secret, not really a secret, that he used like dozens of writers that are like helping to compose the music for his films. They're usually credited as like additional writers maybe these days, but back in the days, maybe they weren't. And this is kind of an open practice for a lot of people in the industry. And even that aside, I would mostly describe his music as like closer to like popular music than like classical or the orchestral masters that you're probably going to study if you're going to school for composition. And also he's like not the like actual person writing the orchestration and this is going to be a French horn and this is going to be this. That's somebody else who's hired, who probably has gone to music school. I think it's the same with like a Danny Elfman. I don't think Danny Elfman is doing that orchestration. And I love Danny Elfman and Hans Zimmer and all these things. These are just like giving you the context, giving you the truth about the situation. To kind of bring it all together, it's like the path to mastery is going to take a lot longer if you are kind of like wandering and meandering in an unstructured lesson plan made by someone who doesn't even know the educational destination they're trying to get to, which is you. When you're self-taught, you are like trusting yourself as someone who doesn't even know where they're trying to get to design the map, if that makes sense. At the end of the day, applying to school, they don't expect you to have mastered everything. That's what the school is for, right? To help you master that, to kind of be the guiding force for you. And it's also important to remember that like learning is not really a race or a competitive sport. If you can get in, there really isn't any downside to being a little behind on the theory, other than like you may have to spend a little like extra effort, study some late nights trying to catch up. They're going to teach you all that, and they don't expect you to have figured it out before you got there. And like the real key is to like talk to the professors at the school you're trying to get to, if you can send an email, if you can get a call, if you can get whatever's convenient for them, and just like talk about what their specific entrance expectations are. After all this, if you intend to apply for music school, I put together this free composition portfolio checklist that's like, these are all the things that you need to have together. These are my tips. From all the applications I did, I got in sometimes, and I didn't, and I learned from both of those. I put together this like quick one-page checklist that is just like, this is your music composition portfolio checklist, completely free, download it in the description. I'm putting together like a whole like course about this kind of stuff on musicality.me, so stay tuned if you're interested, and I'll see you in the next one. All right, guys.